I wanted to address some of the key points being missed about Liverpool, and because detail has been given, it's a white guy who's 53, so there's a tendency for people to dive onto or grip onto the detail. I think that's a deliberate tactic actually, and just for the record, I don't believe anything at all that we've been told about Liverpool so far. That doesn't matter, my opinion's not relevant. But what's being missed is the much bigger strategic points that are actually the story here. I mean, it's terrible what's happened. I'm very sorry for everybody that got injured, but the real story is much, much bigger. Firstly, people no longer believe anything they're told. We live in a country where when information is put out, people's immediate reaction is not to believe it. And that's not their fault, that's learned behaviour. People have learned not to believe what they're being told. And as a side effect of that, or a consequence, people no longer believe the British police. Whether that's because of bad actors inside of the police, whether that's because we've been lied to before, whether that's because the police have been used as Stasi to police stuff like lockdowns, whether it's because police have sent up drones for people that are walking their dogs in the hills during lockdown, whatever, people no longer believe what they're told, and people no longer trust the police. That is being completely missed. The second thing is that people don't trust the British government and therefore the law to act in any way that is fair. So for many people, the law is no longer the law. They understand that the law is just a tool of control. And in order for the state to try and keep people compliant with the police or the information they put out, they've taken hostages, for example, Lucy Connolly. So the reason Lucy Connolly is in prison is to act as a kind of hostage to try and keep you guys compliant with information at a time when a lot of people no longer believe anything that they're told. And that's the need, that's the reason for the need for someone like Lucy Connolly. Because the state and its intelligence arms are very well aware that this country no longer believes information that's put out. They don't believe fact checkers. They know that when something is called misinformation or disinformation, it could just as likely be true, but is not convenient for the state. And it is understandable, this is the other important point, it is understandable why people think it might be a terror attack when a car rams into people, children, having a lovely time. It isn't that there's some sort of innate racism in people. I would argue actually that everyone was getting along perfectly well till all of these groups and activists were put into play by government. So NGOs and Black Lives Matter and all of this divisiveness was planted into society. I think everyone was rubbing along rather well in the 80s actually, and the 90s. But it is understandable that people think it's a terrorist attack because so many of them have been allowed. So many terrorist attacks have been allowed on British nationals, German nationals, other nationals, that it is actually understandable when people see a car drive into a crowd of people in what appears to be a deliberate attack. It is understandable that people think it's an Islamist terror attack. And not to acknowledge this fact is to leave a gaping, yawning hole in the narrative. So on Twitter, when people jump in and say, oh, well, typical, the racists think it's a terror attack. No, that's just learned behaviour. People have learned this is what happens to us as a population when we have accepted people into our country that don't want to be part of our culture. And I think the most important thing of all is it is the kind of ultimate gaslighting to expect British nationals to be all happy clappy and clap along as their country is taken over by another culture. It is the ultimate in gaslighting to expect people to just lie down and nod along as they find themselves a minority in their own country. It is the ultimate in kind of bullying actually by the state to expect any nationals to just accept that they are no longer the majority in their own country. They don't have the rights of the minorities who arrived here, and they're at the back of the line. How many times have I been told that British people feel like second-class citizens in their own home? So it isn't the fault of British nationals, Irish nationals, French nationals, German nationals, if they have something to say about it. It's absolutely their right. And the reason none of this is said is because when facts become hate speech, the truth is an arrestable offence, and I should know. So I just wanted to pull back about 40,000 feet away from the detail or the number of the age or the colour or the anything, and say that this is a country, hello doggy, come here, that has this huge disquiet, this huge unrest. I've never felt anything like it. It is palpable now. And unless conversations like this start to happen, this country will blow. Really blow. That's my thoughts on Liverpool.